And while you're at it, will you make the motions right down the same? You pick the perfect spot.
Okay, Lori.
All right, it is 6:01 and I will call the meeting to order. Alicia, would you do a roll call, please?
Yep. Lacey Oster. Here. Sherry Link.
Here.
Michelle Lesha. Here. Bruce Blargen.
Here.
Lori Blargen.
Here.
Matt Poopal.
Here.
Mars Little. Here.
All right, our district mission, together we engage, educate, and empower our learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures and positively contribute to our local and global communities. I will take a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to move item 5 in front of public comment, cheer team recognition, and then remove item 10.
All right, so we have a motion by Bruce to amend the agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Michelle. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And then as the agenda is amended, would somebody make a motion to approve the agenda, the amended agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Thank you, Barb. And is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Sheree. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Then we are on to the new item 4, Somerset Cheer Team Recognition. And who would like to speak to this?
Yeah, I can say it.
Okay.
Next up.
Hi everyone.
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
I just thought we'd start with showing our video from state, because a lot of people don't realize that what we do at games isn't what we do when we compete, and so a lot of people don't know what we do. So it's always fun to share this with a new audience that doesn't live in the world of competitive cheer, because it is very different. So if you want to just indulge for 3 minutes and then we'll get on with the show.
Bear with me. This has been acting up. There we go.
In our non-tunnel division, coached by Berger and Johnson, please help me welcome Somerset.
we don't do that at games. It's very different, so thank you for taking a few minutes to watch it, because it's really special what these girls can do, both on the sidelines and then in a competitive setting. So I'm going to start out by introducing Anna. And Anna's a special education aide down at the middle school, and she's also been a volunteer coach for us for 5 years. Everything from elementary, middle school, high school. She does it all and is super important to our program. So I'm going to take a minute to introduce her. And then also I'm just going to name the members of our team, so when I say your name, just give a wave. Margot Atkins, Ruby Leonard, Abby Thompson, those are all of our freshmen. And then sophomores, Molly Duncan, Brielle Harris, who's not here, Maddie Nago, Jessa Patterson, Gabby Richard, Sophia Chavon, Alyssa Plattenberg, and then our junior Kaya, Kaya's not here, and then Allie's not here also, she had to work. And Allie's our one and only senior. So as you can see, the majority of our team is freshmen and sophomores, so the fact that they can do what they do is incredible. 8 of these athletes were on members of last year's team, which is the team that claimed our first state championship. And coming into this season, there was a lot of excitement to build off of the success we had last year. And so that division that we competed in was non-tumble, and then we also compete in game day. So game day is more of like what you do see on the sidelines. We put it together in a 3-minute routine of like 4 different elements. So those are the 2 divisions that we competed in. And then just a little bit about our season. Due to proximity, we compete majority of the time in Minnesota, because traveling to the Twin Cities area is a lot more convenient for us than traveling to Madison and Milwaukee. And so we spend most of our time over there, and we had a ton of success in Minnesota this year with a couple top 3 finishes where we were super close to first place. And then we did claim first place at the Minnetonka Invite, which was a huge success for us. In our divisions, this year we're competing against the reigning national champions in both game day and non-tumbler from Minnesota. So it really pushes us to bring our best foot forward, because that's a lot of pressure to be competing against them. Because we compete against mostly Minnesota teams, our first time of seeing Wisconsin teams was at prelims to qualify for state. So we never know what we're going up against. Are they wonderful? Are we going to get wiped away with them? What's the deal? So that brings both nerves and then also a sense of like, well, we just have to do what we do and hope for the best. And so at prelims, we had our best performances of the season, and we ended up ranking 1st in non-tumble and 3rd in game day at prelims, which is ultimately what we ended up at state finals also. So that was super duper exciting. And you just never know when you're competing, because cheer's subjective. There's a difficulty aspect to it for the skills that you do. A lot of it is what the judges want to see for how you move around the mat, how you get in and out of your stunts, and there is a lot of subjectivity to it, because it's kind of a visual element of it that can't really be scored on a rubric. And then just to note too, a lot of these girls cheered for football in the fall, and all of them cheered for basketball, and a good majority of them also cheered for wrestling. So their work goes beyond just competing. They also help out with our youth teams, both elementary and middle school. So they do a lot for not only the high school level, but also for our youth programs. And then of course our parents are fantastic. They spend a lot of time. And again, with a young team, you can imagine, now some of them are getting their driver's licenses, but there's a lot of running around from the parents too. So we super appreciate their support and time that they put forth to support their daughters in this. And then I'm just going to introduce Sophia and Jessa. They just wanted to say a couple things. And then if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Hi, I'm Sophia, and this is Jessa. We are so grateful for the season that our team has had. We have created such a strong bond as a team, and we have learned and improved so much at all the competitions we attended this season, ending the season with winning state for our non-tumble.
We have so much dedication and time put into our season, and we couldn't have accomplished what we did as a team without the help from our Coach Tasha, Coach Anna, and the support from our parents. Thank you.
Allie is our senior, and she couldn't be here due to work, but if you see Allie Webster in any sense of your world around Somerset here, please give her a shout out, because she has been an amazing leader for our team. The past 2 years she served as captain, and she stuck it out through some of our hard seasons that maybe weren't so successful. And I think that she would definitely say it was worth it because these last 2 years with these girls, and Allie and Kaya have just been incredible, and I'm in awe every day because they're really the age of a JV team. When you're up against, you know, other schools that are of different sizes and stuff, they're the primary age of a JV team, and they go out there and they hang with the best of them, and it's amazing and incredible, and we're so lucky to have them in our program. Okay. So if you are ever wanting to come to a cheer competition, I highly recommend it. There's so much fun. Parents will vouch for you. But it is something to see because it's different than what you see us do at football and basketball games and stuff. So I really welcome you to come, and I'll be happy to share the schedule with you for next season.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't think we have any certificate or award or anything to hand out. No.
So to take a peek at our trophies in the trophy cases after our banquet.
Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it also.
This is the first one we've had in 2 years, so we will get those.
Typically, we would have cake to celebrate.
This is all new to us too.
Thank you. I have not received any items for public comment. Have you?
None.
Anybody want to make a comment?
No, they're walking along. Then we are on to item 6, and I believe I saw Sarah Calling here for the fall 2022 early college credit program and the Start College Now program.
All right, hi everybody. My biannual meeting with all of you to go over the course requests for our students that are hoping to take classes at Northwood Technical College or UWRF. I shared out with you on Friday a list of all of those courses, and I just want to point out a couple things. Next to some classes, you're going to see the words special exemption. Myself and Sarah Estes and Shannon Donnelly, we are requesting that the board please approve classes that we traditionally would not approve, since they are classes that we offer at the high school, because there are 2 students who are current juniors and will be seniors next year. They have taken all of our science classes, which is a beautiful thing. They have completed all of our AP science courses, and they are hoping to take science classes at the college level. So, in years past, we have approved those, so I hope that you guys would consider that again for this year. Again, it's just 2 students that have that special exemption next to them. Lori, I have highlighted who those students are in the book so you can see their application. There are multiple classes that they are applying to take. Again, they won't necessarily be taking all of those classes, but if River Falls has room in their courses to let these students in, I would really love to be able to send them, as those, these particular students have since ninth grade taken almost 8 or 9 classes per semester, which is a great thing. They are real go-getters, and this is kind of the next step in their educational journey. And again, both of them are seniors. So they're at kind of the point in their high school career where we're running out of options at the high school themselves. I do want to say that this process of having students submit 8, 9 classes has worked. This past semester, we had everybody who wanted to take a class, they were able to take a class, and I didn't have to come back to the board and say, will you please consider this post-enrollment? And so you will kind of see that reflected on the document that I shared with you. There's almost 100 classes that are being approved. Students will not take that many, those classes all won't be taken by our students. But with the addition of students taking and applying for multiple classes, we don't run into a situation where classes fill up and then they're not able to take classes at all. So that has been really helpful. We again to see communication, interpersonal communication as a really popular class for students to take. And we, as in like the high school English department, is looking at our current course electives to see where we could have some flexibility and make some potential changes to offer classes similar at the high school. We're not there quite yet, but that is definitely something that we have shared with our English department, knowing that we have so many students that are requesting to take those classes every semester.
And I saw that there were 2 of those special exceptions had to do with math as well.
Yeah, yep, like calculus-based physics, and I don't remember what the other one
Calculus
was.
one.
Yep, so again, this student that is requesting that is currently in AP Calc.
Got it.
Very exciting to take those college level classes next year. Yeah. We've had great success with this program. All of our students are really good. They pass all their classes. Our parents are so appreciative that we offer this opportunity. Many of our parents, I'm in junior conferencing right now, when we meet with them, didn't have options like this when they were students. And so they're just kind of blown away with all of the options. And again, our proximity to River Falls really gives our kids a jump start into their post-secondary, especially if we have a student that goes to a UW school. So I'm thrilled to pieces that we have so many students that want to take advantage of this. Every year, we spend about a week and a half, 2 weeks working with students to pick out classes, and it's a really seamless process. So it's good to report.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So this will move to the regular session
Yep.
for approval.
Yep.
All right, thanks so
Yes,
much.
Thank you. If you guys ever have questions, just send me an email. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Sarah.
Yeah, bye.
All right then, Trish, it looks like you are ready to do.
I thought so. I didn't want to assume and run too quick.
Just a word before she starts. Now, we started this a few years ago, going through department budgets, and just to give you a look at how we're spending money, and when things come up for approval during the year, you've already seen some of these things before, so it's just not new to you.
Okay. Well, she's looking for a mouse. Usually we have a mouse right here. It must have run away. Oh, yeah, we got something. That's good. Let's see if we can get started. Okay, hi. Kind of a big presentation, and it's pretty much a way to educate you on all the different kind of budgets that my department oversees in conjunction with technology. So I'll try to kind of move through. If you have questions now, great. If you have questions between now and whenever, you can always give me a call or an email. I'd be happy to go into further with you. Yeah, let's not use that. Is this gonna work?
Close the side, click the side.
Oh,
Thank you.
on.
Sorry.
On is good. Still not going. Let's go. There we go. Okay. So in my department, we oversee these buckets. Some of them there's limited discretionary dollars. Some of them are predetermined because so many things are on an annual basis now. Some are things we can predict, and some are things we cannot. So curriculum instruction and assessment, that's my main component. We oversee all the federal, state, and local grants. We also oversee instructional technology, the virtual learning, and then we monitor out of my office our substitute cost. Typically in the past, it really is because of the professional development end of that. How much are we spending to send people places? Do we have coverage? How many are out at a certain time? As of the last year and a half, 2 years, this has been less of a thing because there are no substitutes and we are not sending people places, which is really sad, but a true story that we're gonna have to start thinking very proactively about. These are some of the big parts that you'll see my department monitoring and making sure we have a plan in place based on data, based on our needs assessment that we do in the fall, after we get state assessments, after we look at the strategic plan. So professional development, really a big part of that is instructional staff training and resources, really to support the strategic plan. So you can see some of the bullet points of our current strategic plan that my department plans for, has oversight of, make sure that we're all kind of going in the same direction, and then provides resources or training. And then also district and building goals. So those are places that you might see some of my other components going towards. CISA sponsored trainings is a big one. We work very closely with CISA, bringing in people from CISA, sending people to CISA, not as much anymore, but also doing virtual trainings, after school trainings, and so on. Sometimes outside experts, sometimes book studies, summer trainings for sure, whenever we can tap into that, and then of course conferences, which are very limited as of late. My overall budget is up right here, $344,829. You can see some of my goals for this year. We're really bringing on our new K-12, actually K-5 ELA resource. That's our core resource that we lean on heavily in order to have fidelity in our system. It is year 2 in the new rollout of the ELA standards, and in year 2 we really start looking at what are the essentials, do our materials align to those essentials at the right rigor in order to help our kids be successful. Because K-5 core resources are so expensive, I mean, this is a big one, and prices have really gone up, kind of shockingly so, because there's usually a lot of literature. For our little ones, online reading and having a few novels isn't the case. So our little ones have lots and lots of access to books, our teachers have lots of access to big books and other resources, so it will take 2 of my budget. So next year's budget will largely be dedicated to the same cause, bringing on a high-quality K-5 core resource. They're the last group to get it. We just did 6-8 and 9-12 ELA, much less expensive than an elementary program. So big dollars there. Math, we've got 2 years. This is our first year with new math standards that we're unpacking them. Next year will be year 2, and that'll be resource alignment work there. We're also doing a lot of work this year with our standards and competencies and being a safe, supportive, and collaborative culture. Next year, we'll continue our work with our last year of our strategic plan. So kind of wrapping up some loose ends there. Another chunk of our money goes to maintaining interventions across the district. We use Lexia, we use LLI, the elementary, those are annual costs or subscriptions per seat. Project Lead the Way, which Sarah didn't talk about, but I wanted to mention, those are courses that students can gain college credit as well, and very inexpensive college credit. At the end of those classes, which is wonderful, rigorous, collaborative problem solving, it's wonderful, they take a test. And if they pass at a certain level, then they can apply for college credit at U of M, at Stout, at Milwaukee, at lots of places, St. Cloud. It's wonderful, and colleges love to see that on a resume. Our virtual program, which includes, that's where we started with Edgenuity. It also includes all of our GED prep, our test prep, credit recovery over the summer. We use that for all of those pieces. And sometimes if there's a course that we can't offer that a child was on track for example, French. We used to have a French teacher, it was wonderful. We try to replace, there are very few French teachers out there. So we have students that were taking French, we wanted to make sure that they could complete that. They might take a class through Edgenuity. And then of course all of our local assessment and our local progress monitoring tools come out of my budget as well. So EduClimber, which is our data warehouse, Fastbridge, which is our reading, math, social, emotional, behavioral assessments. I just had a DAC meeting, DAC is District Assessment Coordinator, and it's determined that nearly all of the CISA schools are either moving or have moved to FAST, which is wonderful because that gives us a collaborative group of professionals that we can all have dialogue to see what's working, what's not working, what are we doing. It's nice to have things like that. We're on the same page. It also validates our work. Some of the grants that you've heard us speak of in the past, if we start at the federal level, we have ESSA, that we had to have an ESSA plan for several years ago, and we monitor and we maintain it. That includes our Title I, which we spend all of it on staffing, Title II, which is largely professional development around our core areas, Title III, which is our EL support, and Title IV, which is basically 4 big buckets of either all student, whole student wellness, technology, training, and safety. Those are things we have to plan for. Whoops. Every year we have to submit, it has to be approved by DPI in order to get those funds. ESSER 3, you just had our presentation the last time we were together. We've officially submitted that. We'll wait 4 to 6 weeks now for final approval of our ESSER 3 dollars. And then state level grants. For example, the Peer Mentor Grant, which they offer annually. We typically have gone together with New Richmond and St. Croix Central to come up with our Peer Mentor Grant. This year, we tapped into CISA, who wrote a really nice one and asked us to be part of it, and it's really to help our science and math initial educators. So they come here, they pre-plan, they observe, and then they do coaching with our science and math brand new teachers. It's been great. Educator Effectiveness is something that we get every year. We have money for our program, which is My Learning Plan through Frontline. We pay for it up front, they reimburse on the back end. We have a mental health grant currently in play, which was primarily authored by Kate Rohrbeck. It's about $60,000. We use that for part of our strategic plan actually, restorative practices, responsive classroom and so on. And then local grants like Anne Marie. So Anne Marie is one of the places that offers a pretty sweet little grant to our folks. We currently have one submitted for a community collaboration, one-time $10,000 grant. We should hear back soon that Eric, Becky, and I have been working on. So we keep our eye on all of those different grant opportunities that we can to enhance our budget. The other big part of our budget is informational technology. So working with our IT team. Our IT team, our budget consists of hardware, software renewals, projects, and grants. This year, so our total budget in this world is about a little over $400,000. Our projects this year, you can see the total there. These are some of the things we did. We did have a little bit of a glitch this year because of supply chain problems. So we ordered our laptops, it's a real thing. Laptops for the smart boards, our laptops for the offices, and so on, back in February, a year ago. And they did not come in until after the July 1 cutoff. That was a problem. So that shifted all of our fiscal because our money doesn't just roll over, right? It goes back in, it gets redistributed. So we are playing a bit of catch up, having to shift some things around in order to meet our budget. Those are things we cannot really plan for, but we now are planning ahead for this year and next year's purchases in case that should come across again. Of course, if we order too early and they arrive before July 1, then we're in trouble the other way. So it's kind of a little game of, what do you think? A lot of promises by a lot of people, but it often doesn't come through. So this year, some of our projects, though, that kind of jumped in front are some of our cybersecurity enhancements. We have something called Know Before. It's a place where we can train all of our staff and make sure that we are all up to date on phishing, so on, all different ways to make sure our system is secure from our user level. As you know, we had to do some other security software updates. We have some other projects in place, and that will be in addition to what we had already planned in our budget. The elementary has some core switch upgrades that they're working on this year as well. There's our hardware that we were supposed to come in last fiscal, came in this fiscal, so we are making adjustments to try to stay under our budget. And then, of course, we have renewals. That's just a part of life now. So every time we bring on something, it's like you have to count on it for every single year, which is a real bummer. Because in the past, you could plan on buying one thing one time and then waiting a few years. But Go Guardian, our Smart Learning Suite, Google Enterprise, all annual fees, just to name a few of our online software programs. Next year, here's where we current projects are staying right underneath that budget with no need to really increase, except that after our security incident, we found we probably should make some upgrades to a couple things. And some things that are coming end of life, so they won't be supported. We're working with different vendors and with RMM in order to see if we can annualize that and roll that out. That's a big part of this budget. So this number right here is not in our total budget that we have been planning for because of swapping things around. So we are going to work on that to see if we can annualize it out. The other part for next year, so this is our next year's projects. Of course, we always bring in new Chromebooks for our 5th grade and our 9th grade, and then not again until the following year. Staff will be getting upgrades to their Chromebooks with larger monitors and more working memory. Smart boards are starting to go out. As they go out, if we've got a projector to replace, great, we'll use it up. If not, we're replacing them with interactive TVs, which the price has just gone down. So it's a wonderful, saves bulbs, saves a lot of great advantages there. Renewals and maintenance, a reoccurring cost like we had talked about earlier. Some of them come up every 2-3 years. One thing that we're looking at is enhancing with SentinelOne. You had heard us talk about SentinelOne, which is a cybersecurity software that is kind of that safety net. That is in addition, that will be added on each year now going forward. And that is it for my budget presentation. Anything?
So there's $176,000 in this budget that we have to find the money for?
We are shifting things around. Yes, yes, Lori, that's exactly right. This one, we're working with a vendor to see if it really is end of life Can we put that off for another couple of years? Can we annualize it so that it's little chunks of money that we're paying instead of one big chunk of change for that piece? Yes. This is now gonna be recurring cost that is added to addition because of Sentinel-1.
And that's not included in your 393, 280 either though?
No, because when we were prorated, since it happened mid-year, so we are looking okay. We can push that off one more year unless we want to get it back in the cycle. So we're going to play with those numbers, squish them around, but the one big one is this storage array replacement. And that was our initial quote. So this is a very preliminary because now it's back and forth to see what we can do about that.
Can you just explain what that is, storage array replacement?
No.
What would that include?
I can't. That question would be much better answered by, in a much better fashion than me trying to fumble through that. So I'll get that for you though.
With the programs that the teachers use that we have like Seesaw or Google Classroom or, and I know a lot of these aren't the same, but EduClimber, Infinite Campus, Skyward, GoGuardian, whatever, all those things we have, are any of those able to be duplicated so that, are any of them duplicates that we can get rid of? That do the same thing, or we could piggyback certain things so we don't have to have all of those, I guess?
I wish I could say yes, but every year we go through and see how we can, even our virtual platform, can we reduce the number? Who's using it? Do we really need it? What's its primary purpose? Is it making an impact? So every year we go through and do that component. So at this point, we have no overlap.
Have we, is staff involved in all that?
Yes, I'm gonna say
Like
yes.
teachers?
In what part of that are you?
I guess I just mean from, I guess what I've heard a little bit is there's some duplicates, some of these said, we could do this same thing in this other program. So I'm just wondering if there's any way.
Well, we had, if you're
we-
referring to Seesaw and Google Classroom, might that be what you're referring to?
Possibly, I don't know.
Yeah, so we've examined that component. Google Classroom is a learning management system that we use in order to, especially it was really helpful when we have distance learning but it does not have a parent component. There's no way to communicate to parents through it. There's no way to send out messages. So teachers that use Google Classroom have to then use Infinite Campus to send out messages. There's not a parent login component to Google Classroom. There's a weekly notification, but not a parent login. So Seesaw we've used for our elementary in order to have a better, more interactive, more collaborative culture. That's the one piece that I can say maybe, but it really doesn't offer the same benefits or offer the same services.
Don't we use, is Remind, is that one of them? Or is that the wrong school?
It's just an app that they put on their phones. It's free. I used it for Speak Club.
That's a great way to communicate with parents, but it is not, there's a security piece in there as well. It's not archived so that we can't go back and pull records if we had an open record request. That's an issue, so that's why that is used for activities and athletics, advisors and coaches. It's not a learning management system.
Like Infinite Campus will send you grades at midnight because the teachers are up doing grades at midnight.
And we don't do that at the elementary, so our elementary doesn't do the same kind of grade books and the same kind of record keeping that we do in the middle school and high school. So Infinite Campus doesn't work as a tool for them.
I have another specific question that recently came up from a parent I ran into. He was complaining because he said that only one parent could log into Infinite Campus. Is that true? Because it didn't used to be that way.
That doesn't sound accurate.
As a parent.
We have 2 logins as a parent.
I was gonna say, it doesn't,
You have 2 logins.
they just
I
have to
do too.
get the code.
Yeah. English login.
Okay. Maybe it had to do with registering for activities? I don't know.
Registering for activities, the only hiccup there is that you can't use the same card twice in one day. You have, like if I register both of my kids, I have to register one, either I use 2 different cards or wait another day to register for another activity.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a,
Thank you.
it's a security thing for the credit card, but,
Oh,
I don't know, I guess I'm the only one that uses Infinite Campus on and I get the notifications. But you would think that both parents would be able to
but
get
at your
that.
house, you both get,
We both have logged in, yeah.
and you both get notifications?
Yeah.
All right, well, maybe it was a
Yeah.
misunderstanding then.
Well, if you know that person, they can probably call any office and get some help with kind of going into their system and setting it up.
It is not the easiest to set up, but once it's set up, it's
Mhm.
fine.
Everything. It's an automatic.
I got a question about slide 4, the curriculum stuff. So you talk about new ELA standards. That actually isn't a new change, it's just new for K through 5. You're changing sections of grade. Is there a new curriculum? Can you just explain that a little bit?
You bet. So the state of Wisconsin adopted new ELA standards, it's English Language Arts. They adopted it last year, was year 1. So year 1, we went through and we learned what are the major changes. Year 2, we're really looking at what are our essential standards, where do we want to focus our time, and then do our current resources match that level of rigor? Like, do we have the stuff we need? So it is year 2, straight across the board, K through 12, of understanding those new standards. But I am working on bringing on a new resource for just our K-5. Our 6-8 already have a resource that is high quality and vetted high quality. Our 9-12 already has a brand new resource vetted high quality.
So there will be new curriculum coming.
Just for the K-5.
For K-5.
Right. The curriculum we're currently using has been deemed not high quality by this group called Ed Reports. It doesn't hit the rigor in certain grade levels or in certain lessons. They look at every lesson, they look at every piece of literature. It's not deemed usable, and so on. So we're looking to bring on a high quality resource that then our teachers would have access to the materials they need in order to work their magic in the classroom, help our students grow and achieve. We've been working on this process since July, working our way through, and it is a crazy process because there's so much heart and passion into how we teach reading. And then does it match the new standards? So you'll get more reports on those. I've been putting it in the weekly update so you can see where we are in our progress. We've got more meetings this Thursday night, Monday after spring break. It's going to start really picking up because the timeline is we have to make an informed decision that we can all support so that I can start receiving materials before July 1 because that's this year's budget and get the rest after July 1 so I can get everything our teachers need before the new school year comes in.
I think just in addition to that, one of the things, that there's a lot of talk about there's not one that has been selected yet, correct?
No.
Just in how that addresses dyslexia and some of the new science of reading. I know that that's, a big talk and thing, and I know that we've had donations, when we're talking about that money piece, donations to support that dyslexia piece. So just curious on, when that comes our way, I'd like to know more about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about that.
I'm excited too. We're learning a lot as a group, and it is challenging some of our belief systems, as you can imagine how that goes. So it's quite a process, but everybody's hanging in there and working hard.
And I would just like to add that when we purchased the curriculum we're using now, it was considered very high quality.
It absolutely was.
And how many years ago was that?
6. Ending 6. So 7.
Is that the typical timeline
Typical.
of turnover?
Mhm.
6 to 7 years?
That's about it. By that time, there's new standards out, there's new science of reading is out. We're talking about dyslexia. We were not talking about this 7 years ago to the level that we're talking about it now.
Cherie, did you have any questions that you wanted to ask Trish?
No, I do not.
Okay, and are you able to hear her all right?
Yes, thank you for asking.
Okay, thanks. Did anybody else have any questions?
Sorry, can I ask one more quick?
Oh, yeah,
You said the
absolutely.
ESSER was submitted. Was there a lot, I know that it was pointed out that there was an area for feedback. Was there a lot of feedback that was received for anything to be really? Okay. Yeah.
The Fastbridge, so what's the history behind Fastbridge, the social, emotional behavior assessments? Are those Are those assessments new? Is that with new standards as well?
No. Fastbridge has been around for many, many years. We were looking for a local assessment that would help us gauge how our students are doing, be able to supply what they need. We brought it on, that's where we combined a lot of things, from Ames Web to all the other things we were using. We brought it all together because Fastbridge does all of that. It's out of the U. So we use it primarily for reading screening, and then reading intervention, and reading progress monitoring, as well as math. And then there's another component called SAVERS, and it's just it's social, academic, behavioral, emotional risk screener. It's just a screener. And it's just a series of questions for teachers to answer and a series of questions for kids. And we don't do it all the way down in our littles. We do it up, they get a score just saying if we're good, or saying ask some more questions, high risk stuff. So we just recently did that. We send it out home to parents where they can see what we're doing and what we're asking. Doesn't take a lot of time. It's just a quick questionnaire. That's a very, very small part of Fastbridge. Fastbridge is primarily our reading and our math screener, progress monitor, and intervention. And they've really expanded as well. They've added in lots of interventions right in the system since you probably used it last. So it's really kind of gaining some big, strong meat. Mm-hmm.
And we do SAVERS at the middle school too, I believe, right?
Yes. Yep.
5 through 8.
Yes.
But not at the elementary.
We do part of it, but it's not really appropriate for the K2ers or even K3, because there's two parts. One is my SAVERS, one is a student-centered one is a teacher-centered one, and so we don't use it with the little ones down there, because students chiming in on their own, it's not valid.
Do parents have a way that they can opt out?
Yeah, we notify parents when we're going to be doing it. Mm-hmm. We've had just a handful. Yeah.
Then I do have one more question. The mental health grant, can you just talk a little, maybe give a couple examples? What is that being used for?
So we brought in Catherine Cranston for one. She did a whole piece on restorative practices for our new to staff. In the fall, came in, we talked about how do we do, instead of it's discipline and penalty, it's how do we restore and help students learn. We've done some stuff with our strategic plan with mindfulness, bringing Kathy Flaminio from Move Mindfully, helping kids self-regulate, and our staff too. So we did a lot with our staff with mindful work. We've done pieces with responsive classroom, which is primarily used there. Top 20 you've been reading about that Sarah Eichten is doing at the middle school. That's all funded from our mental health grant. Carly Ullman, our mental health coordinator, it helped funds a telephone for her so she's accessible all over the place, plus instructional materials that support classroom work, and so on.
Excellent. Thank you.
And also training first.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Give me a call anytime. I even turned it on for you.
Thanks for working the kinks out. All right. Good. All right, good evening, everyone. Here to talk tonight about the Athletics and Activities Department budget presentation. So when we're talking about this particular department, we're talking about our athletic teams, our official school activities, but it's also important to note that we have various clubs, which I'll dive into in a little bit here as well. Linked to the presentation is our participation data through the winter season. I do not have spring on here because spring sports track started last week, softball and baseball arm care started this week, so I'll wait to put those concrete numbers in as they get going. In terms of our athletic teams, you can see which programs we offer for official sports through the district. These are all governed by the WIA, which is the state organization. We're a member of the Middle Border Conference. Girls hockey, which is a co-op team, is actually a member of the Big Rivers Conference. There are several schools that make up our girls hockey team, I think 5 to be exact, and 4 of the 5 are all, actually I'm sorry, 3 of the 5 are Middle Border teams. Somerset, Amory, I'm missing one right, Osceola is as well. So we're in the Big Rivers because there's not a Middle Border Conference for girls hockey. We have several activities within the district. These are officially sponsored and funded by the district. These are not sanctioned by the WIA. The WIA does not sanction these to begin with. In Minnesota, across the river, it's a little bit different where their state high school league does sanction and oversee some of these, but in Wisconsin, it's done differently. And we have several middle school sports and activities. We do have a variety of different clubs that we offer: ski club, yearbook, fishing club, trap, to name a few. Those are all recognized and promoted within the district, and kids are encouraged to join those. Those are not specifically funded by the district, though. This gives you an overview of the budget breakdown. That number at the top there, that does not include our stipends for our coaches and advisor. That's a separate number that's fixed over time, approved by the board over the history of the district. If you were to add, I would say anywhere between $250,000 to $270,000 roughly to that total, that would give you the overall department budget. And the reason that I would throw a range out there is because a lot fluctuates based on who's in those positions. If it's a district staff member, there's Wisconsin retirement system that goes into that cost, and some different factors along that. So to break down this number here, I'll dive into it in another couple of slides. This covers everything from our officials, our game workers, entry fees, supplies, and things like that. So that's what that number is. To break it down further, that gives you an idea of what percentage each level accounts for that total number there. So high school athletics, high school activities, middle school athletics, and middle school activities. Breaking down that number on the previous slide, about 47% of that is our personnel services, so that's paying for officials at all the levels of middle school and high school sports, JV, varsity, C-team, different services that we have. If you see a porta potty out here for soccer games, that's something that comes out of that area. When we have to have football helmets reconditioned every year, that's a service that comes out of that area. And then game workers. Entry fees makes up about a quarter of that pool of money. Membership to be a part of the Middleburg Conference. Tournament entry fees, anytime we have a team go to a tournament, there's entry fees associated with that. Other variety of dues and state meals and hotels, coaching clinics, first aid and CPR training. And then that leaves about just under 28% for general supplies and equipment and uniforms, which is what you have to make decisions to try to allocate that as best as possible between all of our programs. One thing that I'd like to just put on the board's radar as we start building our budget for next year is currently our kids that participate in hockey, they are asked to pay for their ice costs separate. So kids who play hockey pay $750 so they can skate every night at practice, at games, and so on and so forth. I put on there, this year we had 16 boys on the boys hockey team from Somerset, from our school, and 10 girls on the girls team. That gives you an idea of what that would equate to. That would be something that I would strongly urge the board to look at, and as a district, if we can make that possible from an equity standpoint, our kids who play football or our kids who play basketball or baseball, they're not paying a gym fee or a field fee to come out and play those. So again, something I wanted to bring up tonight. In previous years, I didn't think to bring this to the board necessarily, just as we build our budget. I just didn't have the indication that we had funds as a district to do, but we had a lot of internal discussions to look at that further. So. Large ticket items that are on our radar for next year, as we build our budget and look to that, these are just things that are not typically possible in a general budget cycle with our discretionary funds. Our pole vault pit out at the track is something that's in dire need of being replaced. Marching band uniforms, I think Eric Posel, the band director, I think it was in the 90s is when the last time they got new uniforms were for marching band. That would never have been on my radar as the athletic and activities director, but we've had a lot of conversations about that. And then something to cap off our gym would be conference and state championship banners for our gym. We've put a lot of money and intentional design into that, and that's something that I think could really stand out and help us recognize a lot of great successes that we've had here in Somerset. Large ticket items, again, for the future, not that these are necessarily purchases for next year, but just things to put on everybody's radar. Obviously, there's talk of a potential referendum. We'll dive into that as we progress through meetings, but two things that really come to mind that literally we could walk into either one of our facilities, either our stadium or our gym, and it wouldn't shock me to hear, hey, our scoreboard doesn't turn on, or the sound system doesn't operate anymore in the gym. We're on borrowed time with those. I think the scoreboard is close to 30 years old, if not older, and the sound system in the gym, I believe, is the original one from the original gym project. During the last referendum, I don't think had money at the end to take care of that piece. That was something we were hoping for, but again, those are things that at any given moment, we could go out there to check it, and believe me, the stadium scoreboard, I check it at least 5 or 6 times every summer before football, just to make sure the last storm didn't knock us out. Other expenses that have been new to the athletic and activities department over the past 2 years, as we had discontinued our community ed program, are the scheduling software for all of our facilities. That previously was a shared expense between athletics and activities and community ed as a 50-50 share. That's something now that with community ed no longer existing with the district has been absorbed by the athletics and activities department. And then also of note, facility equipment and needs, different things that pop up due to community use, volleyball standards, hoop nets, a variety of different things, upkeep at different fields, then that comes into our department when previously that was more of a shared expense. Different sources of revenue, so obviously you have your gate revenue anytime we host a game. We currently do not charge admission for students to attend games. That was, I think this is my 4th year as athletics and activities director. The year before that, so about 5 years ago, was the first year that they went away with charging students, and the attendance for students to attend games during the regular season went up dramatically. That's been a positive thing. I think we are one of the only districts in our conference that do allow that. When kids come here from the visiting schools, they're shocked to see that, and then they spend more money at the concession stand, which is great. I put on there the sports that we do charge admission for. There's some that just by nature of what they are, how they work, we don't charge admission for. Our other sources of revenue, entry fees when we host tournaments or events, registration fees for kids, concessions, which we rely a lot on volunteers, football out at the stadium, and throughout the winter season, our teams running those. That ends up being a revenue source for us. Teams obviously fundraisers and donations, and then the last one there, we've been able to ramp up over the past 3 or 4 years is hosting WIA tournament events. I got a slide at the end for that. Some other reimbursements to just put on your radar as well. Anytime we send a team to WIA state, so that first slide where I outline the teams that are WIA sports, if we send a team to state, so boys hockey has gone to state 2 years in a row, up until this year. When we send them to state, we get reimbursed from the WIA part of our travel expenses. So part of the hotel bill, part of the bus cost, part of the meal cost, we get reimbursed from the WIA for that. If we send a kid to cross-country state, we get some reimbursement for that kid plus the coaches to go over from the WIA. Doesn't cover 100% of the cost, but it's a sizable portion that they do cover with that. If any of our teams that are not WIA members or sanctioned, we get 0 reimbursement for that, so that is 100% part of our athletics and activities budget to send those teams there. Hockey co-ops, as I said earlier, we have a revenue or expense sharing system with that based on the number of kids from each school. So for hockey, if we have 16 kids from Somerset and 16 kids from St. Croix Falls, then the expenses are shared equally. If we have more kids from Somerset and fewer kids from St. Croix Falls, then it all balances out along that way. Obviously with girls hockey, it tends to be a little bit more spread out across because we have 5 schools, but that is one thing that, if you look at our budget, okay, here's how much we spent on hockey this year. Somerset School District doesn't absorb 100% of that. That is shared amongst the other schools. And then the other thing I want to point out is robotics. Our robotics team, we work on a grant, Mr. Olson and I do every year, to get a grant from DPI that helps fund supplies, their state competition, and then also an assistant coach. So you can look at robotics and say, well, they didn't have as many kids this year compared to some of their previous years where they've had 20. Well, we get a grant from DPI that helps fund having an assistant coach for that, which has been a nice thing. Ticket Spiket is something new this year. There's a link that I invite you to check out if you haven't already. I'm not going to right now. This has been an online ticket platform that we brought on at the end of the winter season to help with digital ticket sales so people can pre-purchase in advance. This was extremely helpful when we hosted the hockey sectional final, when we hosted some basketball regionals, and then a girls basketball sectional final, and then the musical this weekend. We were able to do all of our pre-sales through that platform. With hockey, that was the first event that we kicked it off with. and we pre-sold, I think it was 797 tickets in advance through this system. We were still gonna allow tickets to be sold at the door if there were some available, which there were. And when we opened the doors at 3 o'clock, our people were scanning tickets as they came through with the iPads and phones, and at 3:10, we had 217 people through the doors in 10 minutes. At 3:30, we had, it was 515 people through the doors. That's 515 people we didn't have to handle cash for at the gate, which slows it up, and then you're dealing with holding all that cash. So it's been a nice system for us. We still accept cash at the gate. We will still continue to do that, but this is something that I think will evolve for us as we move forward in next year. They are working on an option to be able to take credit cards actually at the gate as well, which will be nice because we had people that asked for that as well.
Are there any fees to use for that? Like,
What's that?
any fees?
That
we have?
The fee, not to the district, it gets passed on to people who choose to purchase in advance, yeah.
Okay.
So it gets passed on to the people purchasing. For the musical, it was extremely beneficial for us to sell reserved seating, so people could go on, they could pick which seat they actually wanted or seats and know when they walked up, whether it was Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, I know I'm sitting in this section, this row, and this seat, and it worked. I haven't gotten a whole lot of negative feedback at least yet, so it's been nice from that standpoint. WI tournament events, so if you go back a few years ago, we hosted 5 in 2019 and 2020. 2020 and 2021, which was last year, we hosted 8. Some of those were due to our teams playing, and then 2 we were selected by the WIA. Anytime we're talking about WIA tournament events, it's either our teams have earned the right to host, or we've been selected as a neutral site. And then this year, we hosted 3 wrestling team sectional for the first time in quite a while, the boys hockey sectional final for the second time in 3 years, and then a girls basketball sectional final last Saturday. Those have been great opportunities for us. I know Somerset for a long time had a really strong reputation for being able to host those type of events. For a stretch there, we weren't necessarily getting as many, and then really starting 4 or 5 years ago, we started to get more opportunities and keep getting them, and we keep putting in and requesting to host because it's been great for us to showcase our facilities and have them here for some sports. If you're playing, you do get to play. They don't move it like hockey. If you're playing in the game, you get to host it and play, which is awesome. But other sports, they do move it, which that's kind of part of the deal, but that's been a lot of fun to host those. I think that's all I have.
I got a couple questions.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just talking about the track real quick, so,
Yep.
and this, kind of the scoreboard, the whole stadium out there. If, the track, unusable for meets, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and what's the benefits of having a track that's able to host meets? Is there a revenue to that? Is it just the pride of having it?
Both pride and getting the revenue. You know, if it gets to a point too where the conference meet rotates around throughout the conference every so often, right now, we're not able to host that, so our kids aren't able to compete in their home venue. They're having to travel for those types of key events. Same thing with the regional event and then the sectional event as well. So yeah, it comes down to a pride thing, a revenue standpoint from being able to host all of those types of events, and then the competition factor where you're competing in your home venue. The other part that, to kind of expand on the revenue piece is, you know, at some point, we need to replace our scoreboard out at the stadium. Depending what route we go with the scoreboard or different other advertising components, it's a lot more lucrative to businesses or organizations when you're hosting multiple sports out there versus one sport in the fall.
The score, I had another question too, I forgot now. The scoreboard, what's the plan if it doesn't turn on for the fall? What's the cost to replace it? What's the plan? Do you have something?
I'm out there with the cards.
A backup plan that's currently on site is not great. And it's one that we can, literally, it's one that we can wheel out, and it's got the time and the score on it. And that's it, and it's about, I think it's 5 feet.
Do you know the cost to, or kind of rough cost to replace that scoreboard?
To actually replace that scoreboard, it depends. And that's probably not a clear-cut answer, but the reason that I say that it depends is you can go with just a straight standard scoreboard using the current beams that we have out there, and that's at one price point level. Or if you look bigger picture down the road, knowing that a stadium renovation needs to happen, you would need bigger beams to support that, so that increases the cost and then you're also talking about a sound system out there. So if you would think forward on having the beams, the correct beams out there, plus a board that you could tie into a video board later, but still have that, so you're not just putting a board in and then wanting to do video down the road and losing that. And a sound system with installation, I think it's around 110. But again, that's new beams to support a bigger video board down the road, your scoreboard that can also be used with a video board, plus a sound system that we use for sports commencement, everything else like that.
What would our gym run?
The gym, the indoor ones, I think it was 98,000 with
Just to give you
installation
something.
for two indoor ones.
We priced that out. It was, and this was 4 years ago, it was like 350,000 for a video board with the whole system. And that was kind of basically the same thing we have in the gym. But yeah, it was 350,000 for you're a lot bigger obviously than we had in the gym.
Was that the whole package during all of them, I think?
I think that included the interior one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
All the
but
scoreboards.
now, but yeah, you're
On
talking,
campus.
you're talking 300 to 350 if we want the video board.
And I don't think, so let's just say you did the beams, which, who knows, when you do that part of it, sometimes you can get people to donate or with labor and things like that, that can bring the cost down. But with the beams and just a scoreboard, to add a video board on it wouldn't be as much as I think it would have been with ScoreVision 4 or 5 years ago. Some of those have come down a little bit too through different companies, so that's why it'd be nice to have a plan if that one does go out, and to give us the option to do a video board down the road, because through a general budget, and to be quite honest, going through and trying to fundraise it through sponsorships, it's worked out great inside, but to try to sell them in both venues with a facility that we can only play football at right now would be a tough.
So back to the track, have you seen track participation, enrollment, have you seen a decline being we can't host meets? Or are those numbers staying steady?
It's been so long since we've had a track that's been usable that I couldn't tell you when. I think it's been over 10 years since we've been able to host a meet, so I wouldn't have access to those numbers.
Okay, and then in line with that, can you replace the track in that stadium without doing the rest of the stadium? Or when you get into the track, you have to replace the field, and is it all of it?
So you run into, with where that hill is, with the number of lanes we have right now, we need to be able to host the bigger meets, we need to have an added lane. And when you expand out, you're talking fencing and then the hill slopes down, there's no room inside the field area to really make up, so it kind of, in my opinion, would need to be a whole shot being.
It has to go out, and then bleachers have to go.
And Matt, I can add just something on that. Originally, when we redid it, that was kind of retrofitted in the same fashion, because it was like a 6-lane track. When they redid it and put the stadium on, they made it longer, the straightaways longer, because they couldn't do something on the corners. Anyway, they couldn't make it any wider. So we went like inside. So that was kind of retrofit one time.
To begin with.
To begin
It's already
with, to
big,
make it
right.
8 lanes. So I'm guessing we can't get another lane, is that what you're saying? So, and we did it once. That was when I was in high school, so 20 years ago.
You talked about the large ticket items, that pole vault pit at what, $20,000?
$20,000 to $30,000.
What would be the purpose of doing that, out spending the money out there, just so that they have that's the only place they could use it?
Practice.
So is it unusable right now?
We think we can get one more year out of it.
Okay.
The current one, yeah. Yeah.
Is there any
I think
thought
so.
that this is gonna, some of this is going to go in the referendum, or are we trying to put all that
Yeah,
in
it would all
there?
be in there, yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand,
Yeah.
because I don't know anything about, track
We're
instructions.
just talking right now about piecing it, with
Mhm.
different components, but when, I'm sure the recommendation will come, well, I can talk about that a little bit later, but it would
Yeah,
come
some
as a
of-
package deal.
Okay.
Great question, great point, yeah. Some of those could eventually tie into that, but more so things that, I think if that doesn't come to fruition, we have to address them at some point.
Yeah, okay. And then just to go to the hockey fees, so the skaters are paying right now, so
Yes.
boys and girls, To use the ice?
$750 each.
Okay, and that's their school registration fee, but a football player, basketball, they do not pay a fee?
They pay an activity, the standard activity fee is $65. With hockey, because of the ice cost, they pay they pay $750 to be able to have ice time. It's a shared cost.
In addition to $65.
Yes.
And is that the only, does any other sport have any additional fees beyond the $65?
No.
Baseball doesn't pay extra down at.
If we
Larry
do, it's
Forrest.
through the district, it's not the players paying a substantial fee to go down there and play.
And then in here, it also with hockey, sorry, did I cut you off?
I think I'll probably have something else, but I think I'm
Okay.
good for now.
It just kind of piggybacks, because it also, the hockey admission is handled by the rink and goes to teams.
Yep.
So just like where
So
that money,
The rink and the red line and blue line clubs run the gate for the hockey games.
and is that the same at the WIAA at the tournament games?
The tournament games, the school we end up having gate workers and do all that because we have to report to the WIA, here's how much was taken in, and then they have a formula of how much we have to, after you pay the officials and pay for the ice for that, how much we have to send to the WIA and how much we actually get to keep them as a district.
So, but at hockey, the school doesn't get any of the money for each of the events?
Correct.
So the gate fee, none of that, what we
Correct.
do here?
Correct. And the gate money here, like basketball, football, wrestling, volleyball, that goes into just the general district revenue account.
And the school district they're not funding that rink at all?
Correct, not that I'm
There's
aware of.
absolutely no tie to maintenance upkeep.
No Zamboni fees.
And my last question, band uniforms. So $10,000, is that for like a full replacement? What are they running with now?
Jackets, yep.
Are they in need of a replacement?
Yes, yeah,
Overdue
way overdue.
1990s.
was the last? So that's in
I
your.
want to say the year that he told me, but I'm not 100% confident that I would get it right, but I want to say like early 90s.
So those large ticket items, are those in your proposed budget for '22, or are those just kind of still sitting out there?
The large ticket ones?
Yeah, like the band uniforms, the pole vault pits.
It's, if I can get the green light internally that we have funds within the district to use them, then those are things that we want to be able to tackle during this budget cycle. With the current pot of money that we have, we wouldn't be able to tackle all of those things.
Your 189,000.
Right.
It does not include those things.
No.
And that's something that Dave can answer too, talk about a capital budget for the year, where things have to go and what he has left over. And that's typically what happens with the larger ticket items, depending on what the needs are across the district.
The football scoreboard was moved from the Spring Street School.
Seriously?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That's pretty bad.
Wow.
I'm dead serious. I go out there and check that thing about 5 or 6 times every summer just to make sure it's still working.
And my understanding is to get bulbs, when you've had bulbs go out, you're trying to get them off of scavenger. Old.
We're thankful that the consoles still work because I don't know that we're finding replacement ones for those.
Yeah. Did anybody else have any questions? Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Thank you.
I don't know if I want to touch this.
And then I believe we're gonna see a video for the principal's budget presentations because of the fine arts.
Do we have to watch it?
Do we have to watch it? I think we do,
We've already watched it.
but we want it to be part of the record.
They can click on it and do it.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to dispense with the school
How long is
level
it,
budget?
8:50?
It's 9 minutes.
I think we should
I've
watch it.
watched it myself.
I think we should watch it as part of the meeting.
can watch it.
Okay,
Okay, hit play.
If If you have to leave for 2 seconds, you can do that.
Philippi, and we are going to share with you the school level budget information that we are planning for the 2022-2023 school year. As we go through, we have 2 main budget areas that the buildings work under. We work under Fund 10, and then we work under Fund 21, which is a rollover account. So within our Fund 10 accounts, we have classroom budgets where teachers utilize those for supplies to support students in their learning. We use them for building supplies that all folks have access to, that offices use as well. We have common school funds, which support our LMCs. We utilize Fund 10 for professional learning to include strategic plan support. And then we also utilize our Fund 10s for building maintenance. And each building will go into some more details to what the plans for 22-23 are on that. We also have Fund 21 accounts that we access for each building. These are our activity accounts. So the student councils in each building have a Fund 21 where those funds can roll over from one year to the next. Individual grade levels at the high school have activity accounts that they roll over. Each building has an Office of the Principal account, and that is where donations for the Angel Fund can be rolled into. If we get any small grants, those can be put in there as well for easier tracking purposes. And then there might be some other Fund 21 accounts that the buildings will utilize just based on needs. If there's a certain area where money tends to get funneled through and it's used year after year, we might create a Fund 21. All of the buildings a few years ago worked hard to eliminate Fund 21 accounts that were not being utilized in order to have easier accounting. So we'll go into the middle school. The overall middle school specific budget for 22-23 is $121,933. And as I described earlier, the Fund 10 work that we're going to be looking at for the next year will be our classroom budgets. You can see the dollar amount on the screen there. Those will be shared with teachers and adjusted as needed throughout the year. This year, for example, the cost of consumable materials has gone up considerably in certain areas. And so if I have to shift some money around, move some money out of the Office of the Principal and into a teacher's classroom budget account so that they can have the supplies they need, we make sure to be able to do that. Our common school fund dollars, you can see there, $16,265. That's an approximate number that changes slightly each year. That supports the work of our LMC through some technology purchases, through book purchases, so students have access to awesome books to read, and we utilize that each year. In the Office of the Principal, which is approximately $30,000, we utilize that for student rewards, including Student of the Month, any kind of other all-school rewards that we may have. We utilize it for guest speakers. If a classroom wants to bring one in and they need some support, I work to do that. If we have any all-school speakers. If there's any additional classroom support, if a teacher has a special project they want to work on and needs some additional support, we will pull from there. Anything to do with our strategic plan execution, we have our top 20 and courage retreats, any work that we're doing with restorative practices. This year we did a book study on top 20 teachers, and so all those pieces that play into the strategic plan will come out of that office. Any other kind of professional learning that we're doing, if a PLC wants to do a book study, or if somebody needs some additional educator effectiveness support, we'll pull it there. And then any other miscellaneous needs, office supplies, staff rewards, flexible seating, agendas, things that might not fit within another budget. And then additionally for 22-23, our building maintenance budget is $42,350. I will be working with Tim to plan for updates on any new furnishings, any carpet that needs to be replaced, which in the middle school after our referendum, we're in pretty good shape. One of the things we are looking at and are starting a bit this year and working into next year is replacement of lunch tables, and then looking at adding an additional piece of playground equipment. They just came out with a permanent 9 square in the air, and that is a middle school favorite, so we are looking to get that added to the middle school playground.
Thank you, Sarah. So at the high school, as you can see at the top, our approximate number for next year is $155,282. Very similar to what Sarah described. Out of that comes our department budgets, and so each department is given a certain amount of money, and then they work collaboratively to kind of figure out what their needs are for the year. We also have a common school fund. That number matches with is a little bit higher than the middle school as well. It supports the work of our LMC and a lot of the technology instructional pieces we have in our building. Then we also have an Office of the Principal account. Some of the bigger ticket items that come out of that is the cost of graduation and our celebration of excellence. We also use that money to execute any pieces of our strategic plan. For us, it has been some book studies that we've done as well, continuing professional development around competency-based personalized learning, as well as our HRS work that we started in our building this year and will continue for next year as well. We are still looking at purchasing, hopefully for next year, an attendance scanning system. This is something I talked about last year, and just with the way this year has kind of went, we haven't been able to kind of execute that yet. But essentially, it would make taking attendance for our teachers much simpler, where students can just simply scan when they come into a classroom. And then we also use that budget money for any additional high school things that may come up, needs that come out of a classroom, supplies. We pay for transportation if classrooms are going on field trips. This year, one example we had was an ACT prep workshop. We just did our boot camp last week, which came with a bit of a price tag. So that would all come out of that budget as well. You know, the other piece this year, as an example, that was something we didn't necessarily expect, is the cost of materials for our metals and our woods classes. So I've had to pull some money out of our principal budget. Sorry. I pulled money out of our principal budget to be able to help cover some of those costs, just because those materials have been much more expensive this year than they have been in the past. And finally, as Sarah said, we also have a building maintenance budget. We work closely with Tim and Brian to kind of figure out what some of those needs are. Some predicted, sometimes those are unpredicted. One thing that we'll be looking at for next year is filling in some of the rest of our flex seating in our lobby with some high top tables. That was originally the plan. This year we've been able to kind of get by with some other tables we've had in the building, and we feel like potentially looking at some newer furniture for that space will help kind of complete our vision. And with that said, I will move it over to Pam.
Thank you, Shannon. Moving along, you'll see a lot of repetition. My overall elementary school budget is $134,583, which comes to the classroom budget set in the spring of $35,420. We do adjust that as needed. Then there's the Office of the Principal, which is $29,000. As many of you know, we did a Student of the Month. We're hoping to be back to that next year, so the 22-23. I do a monthly birthday celebration with all students' birthdays. That money would also cover any guest speakers, additional classroom support, as my colleague said, any professional learning, supporting EE teams that want to do book studies, office furnishings. We do JK registration is one area where we buy little treats for the JKers. Give them a little welcome bag with a book and some crayons. Give them a cookie and juice to make JK registration a really fun celebration. So that those kinds of things come out of other elementary school needs. Our common school funds of $23,543 supports our LMCs with all of our books and subscriptions. And then our building maintenance, $46,620. Excited to work with Tim and Marshall, new team members for me. And we too are working to replace our lunch tables and our cafeteria. They're in need of replacement. So we are gradually buying those and replacing those.
So that's what we have for you this evening on our budget presentation. Feel free to reach out to any one of us if you have a question or would like some further clarification on that. We are happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so if you do have any questions, please email the appropriate people, and I'm sure they'll get back to you quickly. CISA 11 shirt service contract.
Yeah, you have that, access to that. This is pretty much a typical contract every year. Last year we had, we used our virtual school psychologist service through them because we couldn't find one. Right now Abby is interviewing and hopefully we'll have one on board. So we pulled that off of this year's contract, and who knows what's going to happen here over the next month or two. We could be back in the same boat again, but for right now, you know, we feel that we're going to get a person, a live body out here.
Last year we ended up adding this service pretty late.
Yeah.
I think it was like August. Will CISA have the staff available if we need to add it. You know, that's one of the reasons they have us do this contract so early, is so that they can plan
contract
as
too.
well.
Yep, good question. I'd have to talk to Jerry and see, because I know who we're going after.
Right. All right, so this contract will come back to the regular
Yep.
session. Did you want to add anything?
I was just gonna say, we are currently interviewing for that position,
Right,
so that's good news.
Right.
Last year we had
Nobody.
nobody.
well,
So
that's.
We're being hopeful.
We had a resignation late in the summer, I believe, and, you know, which isn't, the earlier you get started,
Absolutely.
the better off we are. So, yeah, I hope it works out. So this will come back
Yep.
to the regular session for
On the
approval.
28th.
All right, and then Mark, would you like to discuss the facility?
Just
committee?
very quickly, our last meeting of the community committee will be on the 30th of March. And at that point, they'll spend their time looking, they have all the tax impacts, they've got all the project numbers, and so they'll, by the end of that meeting, they will be formalizing a recommendation to come to the board with. And at that point then, you know, it's nothing that you have to say, yes, let's go ahead and do it right now. You can think about this a little bit. You can, you know, I would suggest that you probably do a community survey to see where, you know, the strengths and weaknesses of where the support and the non-support are. And again, you don't have to make a final decision until the first part of August. So you've got some time on this, but we'll probably at that April work session be able to have somebody from the committee come back and make a presentation, unless there's some big clinker on the 30th, so. Okay.
Cherie, do you have any questions about the facility committee meeting update?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
No.
Okay, the next item, school perception update. On the 28th, Rob Demise will be giving a presentation on 3 areas. He'll be doing the typical PowerPoint, I say typical because several of us have seen them year after year, on our results, a quantitative summary of what our people have said. And then he'll also be giving a comparison report, which compares us to schools our size across the state, how our answers are compared to. And then he'll do a comment theme report. So on every section, there's a place for open comments, and there's hundreds and hundreds of comments. And so what they'll do is they'll pull out the common themes. I have all the comments. Believe me, all the comments won't be on the theme piece, but it'll give you a good idea, and we'll have access to them if you do want to go through every one of them and see them. So that's what will happen on the 28th.
Sounds good. Does anybody have any questions about that? Cherie, do you have any questions about the school perceptions update?
No.
Okay. The next item on the agenda then is our superintendent search discussion, possible action. Mark, is there anything you want to say about this to get us started?
You know, good discussion. You know, my recommendation is that you look at an outside firm to, you know, conduct this search, just to keep everything transparent, open, and I don't know if you want to say, just everything's above board. There's no questions, so. The rest is yours.
So is, Cherie, would you like to make any comments right now about this?
She just disconnected. She asked us to call her.
Oh,
I'll start.
okay, go ahead.
I think it's important to recognize the value of some possible internal candidates that we have. But I do agree with Mark and his recommendation that we use an outside firm to help facilitate that. I think that we should open it up to external candidates with an emphasis on internals as well. And I personally would like some help and guidance, and I think that the board would be benefited to have an outside firm. So that'd be my opinion at this point.
Okay. Hello? Sheree?
Yes, thank you.
Yep, all right, so you can hear us and we can hear you. Matt just spoke about his opinions about the search firm. Would you like to make any comment at this time?
I also agree. I believe that doing an external and internal search is going to get us the best candidates. It is a great investment for the future of our district. We've got a lot that's going to be happening with our referendum. And, you know, we've gotten some great feedback from our community, from our teachers on our search. And I believe moving forward with one of the firms will give us the best superintendent moving forward.
Marge, is there anything you want to add?
Just that I agree that we need to hire a firm and we need to look at external as well as internal candidates.
Bruce?
Just whatever, you know, obviously it sounds like we're going with a firm. Whatever firm we go with, I just want to make sure that they not only involve and we'll work with them, not only just the staff and the students and teachers and parents of students, but also our community as well. So to get that word out there that we're going to be needing community feedback, and however, if you want to be a part of those, email Mark or the board members, and we can at least get you into some type of.
As you're looking at me when you're saying these things, when you do make a decision,
Or they'll probably
do you want me to work the contract out with them, or do you guys want to work the contract out with them? You tell me what you want to do.
Let's talk about that later.
Yeah, okay.
That's fine. I mean, just people, if people want to be a part of this from the
Right,
community,
right. No,
they
I
need to reach out to
understand
us, I guess, so that we can make sure we get them, us as in, go to the school board website, emails are on there, message us on Facebook, whatever you gotta do to get in touch with us so that you can make sure that you have a voice in this and it's not just we handpicked these people. So just make sure that it's out there that, hey, we're doing this. There's going to be community focus groups. You have to reach out to the board or be on the websites to see the information, the survey, all those things. We're not gonna be able to call everybody's individual house instead of a mailer that, what's your opinion?
Right.
So I think that's just relaying it out. I mean, there's 7 of us here telling people that we're wrong. I guess it's just make sure we get everybody's involvement in this so they feel like, yes, that is adding value.
And whatever company we pick or we choose to go with will be able to, they've done this in the past, so they'll know how best to get the community involvement.
I think we've talked before, is maybe that's something that has fallen down in other districts maybe nearby, and so we just want to make sure we don't fall down that same way, that we learn from that mishap, mistake.
Michelle?
Yeah, I've had time to think about this as well. I know I had questions about like, what do we want out of this? What do we want a firm to look at? There are a lot of things that worry me as the next month happens, right? We have potentially new people on the board. I might not be here, Lacey, Matt, we might not be here. We don't know. But that firm will be the one consistent thing that you guys will have, or we will have moving forward, to at least move forward on this process. And then also, looking at questions and asking all those questions about, getting 16 good, solid questions for each candidate. But I also would emphasize an internal and external, so I would just open it up to both, so, yes.
Lacey?
I just, leaving last week's meeting, there was so much, I think, given, so I'm glad that we have given it this week. I want to thank all the people that emailed and gave feedback. And really, I had close friends, neighbors, staff members, community members, and to know that, some of the points that they gave feedback in really covered a lot of different areas. So for those people that reached out, if we go this area, I encourage, keep giving that support or be on these things. The thing that really stands out to me is that as a board, I think it's important that we listen to our staff, which we received a lot of feedback from. But I think being the board, we don't represent just the staff. We represent the community, we represent families, and I really liked even in some of the presentations how we represent the students. So I stand behind the recommendation to get a firm, not necessarily to, I encourage internal candidates. I fully support that, but I just think it's our due diligence to look at the big picture and take in feedback from everybody, not just that small group, but to know that everybody's feedback is really appreciated in that. And I know the other thing that really has been through with some feedback is the cost. And really looking at, one of the things I really, I pulled apart that some, previous meetings and looking at the cost of some of those things. And I talked to other community members candidly throughout, and I think some of those numbers got inflated even in conversations. I think really in the cost when we're looking around the area that we are, it's very minimal compared to other things that we have approved to spend money on. So just really that this investment is a waste of money. I think that this provides validity to the entire process and really utilizes all of the resources that we can get. So I fully support that.
And I agree totally with everything that you said. When we're looking at a position that is well over $100,000 a year, the cost to help us go through this process and make sure that we're making the best choice possible for the district and the kids and families in our district, it's well worth the cost.
Can I add one more thing? Sorry. And that was just, this was in some emails and some discussions and other things, but just going back to possible internal candidates, because I really don't want people that gave us feedback to think that that was ignored, because it's not being ignored. We really, that's in this. But just looking at that, and if we go with an internal candidate after this process, just validating that.
Exactly.
And coming back for that position has earned that throughout everybody's feedback, not just coming back at the board handpicked this person and having just everybody's voice in that.
So it validates whoever ultimately gets the position. And it's an important position to the future of our district. We have many new board members, and to try to do this without a firm assisting, I think would be a huge mistake. And Matt, you made a comment last week about wanting an outside firm to ensure neutrality, that it's not going through just one person. So we're being very upfront and transparent about the entire process. And these firms have been in business for a long time doing this. They can offer us such tremendous support and expertise. I think it would be foolish not to. So I'm glad we're all in agreement. Would somebody like to, would you like to have a discussion, or would someone like to make a motion about a particular firm? How would you like to proceed?
I'd make a motion unless you want to have discussion. Why don't we start with discussion?
Yeah, that's
So,
fine.
yeah, in my opinion, I think after reviewing the 3 school exec connect, their connection to Minnesota, Wisconsin, I thought that they offered the best services. She talked about scaling back somewhat based on what our needs are. So my opinion would be that's the firm that we choose to move forward with.
So I agree, there's 2. One of them is for sure school exec. The other one I would say is WASB, and I guess I had, and again, I think I'm comfortable with either of them, but WASB, the reason I liked it is she had it outlined for us already, that she had already done the work to look at when meetings were, what needed to happen to make sure that we made this decision, before June. That, by the end of May, hey, if you need to hit these dates, and she had already kind of outlined it for us, and I know the school exec, they said they could make that happen, but she'd already done the work showing it. So I guess I just liked that little thing. Again, I think I'm comfortable with either one of those, but that was my one lean over the top for her, is that she had already done that. So we know, hey, we let her know tomorrow, she's already setting up a meeting with us. So that's why I liked her. And the other one, she'd already met with us. I think she met everybody except for Michelle, but I think it was everybody else, and had already had, so we already knew her a little bit. So that was just my take on it.
And I agree, Bruce, with I'd be comfortable with either of those two, WASB or School Exec Connect. And the thing that I thought WASB had over the other two firms was the fact that Cheryl had worked with us in professional development of the board, and so she knows a little bit more about where we are and where we've been and where we're going. She had more of a personal relationship with us, I thought. Michelle, is there anything you wanted to say?
You know, when looking at all three, yeah, I guess I would, the HYA guy, I thought he had good energy, but I just didn't know necessarily that he tied what we're about here in Somerset. And so going through the School X Connect or WASB, it'd be a toss-up, but I only because School X Connect was like the first one, and it's all blur, right? Because they all had very similar things that they could propose. So, but what stood out to me with WASB was the calendar, right? She was the only one that presented a calendar, like, this is our plan, this is what we're gonna do. But you know, I'd be fine with School X Connect. And she'll adjust fees. Sorry, yeah, no, that's fine. I was looking at my old notes from last week.
School exec, that was the last. The one
No,
that
WASB was last.
WASB was used last, okay. I would be, after all of those presentations, I'd be comfortable with School Exec Connect or WASB for those reasons as well. I think price range did a factor in just some of the information that was presented throughout all of those. I like that Cheryl, I think, has a little bit of a relationship already, but I think that both firms, or both areas, I guess, School Exec, I think I might bring a little bit more versus WASB, so I would be comfortable with either one.
Cherie?
Again, comfortable with either one, and I agree with Lacey. It seems that School Exec Connect might be able to bring a little bit more to the table with options.
Okay. All right, so we've had a little bit of discussion.
March, do you want to talk?
March?
Oh, yeah, you did. I thought you did. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I feel the same, WASB or School Exec.
Okay.
And WASB just, Cheryl seemed to be more organized. But I'd be okay with either one of them.
So,
Matt, I know you specifically said School Exec. Can you,
I would be
feel
fine
like
with,
we're all kind
yeah,
of
I would be fine
so-
with WASB as well. I guess my only hang up is, so she has the personal connection, but she came here and did some board development stuff, and now she's here to do this superintendent search. I just wonder, is that the true area of expertise for
Yeah.
her or for WASB? Where School Exec was here to present on doing a search. That is their expertise, and I guess that's why I swayed that way. I just wonder, are we getting a little bit general? And I may be looking into it too much.
That's a good point.
But I agree, she had the personal connection, we did the board development, she knows where her strengths, weaknesses are. We all talked with her, so I think that adds some significance. And then my other takeaway was just that, she represents Wisconsin, and I know they advertise nationwide, Minnesota, but School Exec comes from the metro. I just wonder, do they bring a different pool, a different following? Is there a difference from central Wisconsin to Twin City Metro? So those are kind of my main points that I would lean School Exec, but I would be comfortable with WASB as well.
Is Mark able to provide any feedback?
As I mentioned before, school exec works regionally here. And you worked with them last time, but none of you were on the board at the time, so that's number one for getting a firm to guide you through this and that. I know them. I know a lot of the firms and that, but they'll do a good job for you. And again, they are more local than any of the others.
I have a question, Mark. So let's say I'm a superintendent, maybe, like, I am going to apply for a job. Do I apply through these agencies directly and put my name in the hat through these agencies? Or is it, how does that work?
So somebody mentioned MSBA over in Minnesota, the School Board State Association,
Yeah.
where they run a lot of searches, and they run them because they're cheaper than anyone else. The professional services, like school exec or HYA or, there's several of them that are national. They're very focused, and this is the only thing they do. So, and a lot of the boards across the river go with MSBA just because the cost is, considerably less. In this case, though, it happens to be that WASB and exec are almost identical in their costs. But again, that's just my
Right.
opinion.
Well, and I'm just thinking like, okay, so I wanna get a new job. Like if I wanna get a new job, I'm gonna search Indeed or go on LinkedIn and put my name out there, and people are gonna be like, hey, we got this job for you. I don't know what that reversal is for a superintendent, like what, how do you, if you want a job here in Somerset, are they gonna nationally grab you because you throw your name out there somewhere? Like, that's what I wanna know, like how are we gonna?
And that's something you can tell them too, is how far you wanna, you want the spread to go. But as a candidate, when I was applying back in the days and that, I knew how I was gonna be treated by the professional firms and the help that they would offer as a candidate versus, the WASB and the MSBAs they're gonna run a process for you, but they're not going to recruit and coach your candidates so you get the best pool. That's just been my experience. So as a candidate, I always lean towards, the professional services.
I think, didn't they say they would post it, it would be posted that it's out there, and then they would gather the information while it's posted, and then once they had all that information, they would be working through their, they have obviously a group of people that they would reach out to anyway, but then they would take that information together, and then they would come back to us with that, hey, these are out of the 16 people that applied, by them either reaching out or, that just applied because they do post it everywhere, then they would make their selection of 5 or 6.
Yeah, the one thing I should mention, when you go with like a regional group like this, they know the informal connections, because people will list, they'll references and what have you. But these people know the kind of the back channels and the people that they don't list, that they have connections to in districts. So that's a big piece.
One of the differences between the two is school exec opens up the search and then gets the feedback, where WASB gets the feedback and then opens up the search,
I
right?
thought she opened it right away. Maybe I could be wrong.
I felt like that stuck out to me as a big difference for WASB as far as that timeline went, because they got all of the feedback first.
I thought they all did. Doesn't it seem like it would just make sense that you'd want to
Well, it
know
says school
who
exec,
you're-
they open it up.
Oh, you mean they just post
Post it.
it?
They post
And
it.
while it's posted, then they
Yeah.
gather. But either way,
Right,
they're
they're all getting feedback out of nowhere.
before they narrow down the candidates.
It was
When we-
vacancy posted, so this was the WASB one, she said the 15th of March, the vacancy would be posted.
Just tomorrow.
Wait,
That's almost like a pre-posting though, right? Kind of like a.
Right.
They want to get the word out there
Yeah.
right away as soon as possible.
and then they do all the focus groups, and then the actual posting opens in April. So it's vacancy, so I think maybe that's it. Vacancy is posted, so it's out there, but then
Okay.
the actual posting with all the information that they gather is then on April 1st. And then 3 weeks later, it closed. And I'm guessing, like you said, it's gonna be the same for any of them, because I mean, she said, because I remember I asked her, she said 8 weeks for her process at Exec Connect. And this was, you know,
About the same.
8 or 9 weeks, it was the same thing.
So they'll open up and advertise, and they'll be working with your focus groups to create that profile. And the profile's posted somewhere during that, duration there.
I'm just completely throwing out just a thought that comes to mind is we're saying that we have a relationship with Cheryl. Does that at all skew this at all? I'm not saying it does, I'm just throwing out the question. I'm thinking in my mind of people that are getting this data. Like, I look at that as a strength, but as we're saying, we want something because we're being non-biased and we want to go in with a bigger picture. If we hire somebody that we have somewhat of a relationship with, does that skew things at all? I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I don't think so, but that's just my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think so, but,
I don't
but
think-
possibly. I mean, it's entirely possible.
I don't have a relationship with her, so. I'm all right.
You make the decision.
Bruce, what do you think?
I mean, it really,
I'm more or less, I think, being a devil's advocate, like what
yeah.
might be going.
I mean, we spent one.
Yeah,
Right.
it's been one
Well,
night,
we're-
yeah, I
Right.
mean, it's, I don't think she has a big, I just like that she had already done work already on this for us, say, I'm guessing Exec Connect, we do the same thing. If we called her and told her it's ours, she would say, all right, I'm getting it posted, let's get your meeting scheduled this week or whatever. Hope so anyway. I'm just glad that either one of them, the one thing I did say is that the one thing they kept saying is that this legally, and I didn't add it, but that there's some things that we shouldn't ask and shouldn't do, and these firms should keep us out of that. I would hope would keep us out of that, having to have a lawyer at any point in this, if we do something, which would easily go over $10,000 in a, so. If anyone's feeling it, they could make a motion. We might as well throw it on the table, unless anyone has anything else.
All right. Sheree, is there anything else you wanted to say?
No?
All right, I will take a motion then.
I'll make a motion.
I knew you would.
What?
That's what I was thinking.
I'll make a motion to negotiate a contract with school, Exec Connect, to be in a search for a new superintendent.
All right,
Is that how that should be phrased?
sure.
That work?
And is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Sheree. Any more discussion?
I like how you said negotiate a contract, because I know she was willing to alter some of those costs.
All right. So, would you like to do a roll call vote, or would you?
Just go around.
All right. So, Matt, how would you vote?
Yes.
Marge?
Yes.
Sheree?
Yes?
Lacey?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right, so unanimous vote for School Exec Connect. And what's the next step? Do I reach out to them or do you?
What do you want to have happen? I can make the initial contact with them, get all their numbers, and just send it out in an email to you, and just, if you want me to handle that part of it?
Sure.
Okay.
Because I know that I already have their numbers, but I'm not sure the rest of the board does.
And when I talk to her, I'll get that, what they want you to do and what they want me to do, because I know we'll work with them, gathering information for them, you know, emails and things like that, but I'll get that all laid out.
All right. And when we went through this process the last time, when Randy Rosberg retired, the next day, the school district posted it on We Can.
That's I was saying the same thing.
And
Whoever posts that, Alicia or Jody or.
Well, don't they do it for us?
But
I'll
we
talk
can-
to Tony Johnson. See how they want to handle it.
And ask if
Yep.
we can, if they'll get it out there right away tomorrow, or if we should post it on We Can.
Yeah, I'll find out from her.
Okay. Anything else on this topic?
Nice job, team.
Good job.
They probably have
Good
been
one.
watching us, they know who they got it already.
I know, right? It's a big decision.
All right, the next item on the agenda is CISA Board Professional Development, and it's in April. So I understand that it may be difficult to commit at this time. However, one of them is April 6th, and there's a timeline from CISA that they need to know a commitment. They need registration by March 30th. It's a joint PAC board member meeting on April 6th, which is a Wednesday. Randy Fox, a transformational leadership speaker, is going to be there. It's at the Turtle Lake office. Check-in and networking begins at 6, dinner at 6:30 with the program to follow. And we need to let Mark know so he can register us by March 30th. I think I can forward you this flyer that I got from CISA. And the other item from CISA was the WASB new board member gathering. There's 2 of them. There's one on April 20th at CISA 11, which is another Wednesday from 7 to 9. And there's one on Thursday at the Menominee Middle School, April 21st. Bruce, you might remember several years ago, nearly the entire board attended. And Mark came with us, and that was at CISA.
Yep.
And WASB's the one who facilitates it. And I highly recommend that we go again. And there's no cutoff date for this, so I think we have more time to decide. We can wait until after the election, I believe, for this particular one. Mark, do you know anything different about registration timeline?
No, I don't.
All right, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of those and you're thinking about it, and we need to let Mark know for the April 6th one by March 30th.
Okay, let's put it on that agenda then for sure. The
Put it
28th.
on the regular session agenda
Yeah,
for
with the-
discussion
Yeah,
again?
with that information, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to go for sure. I think it's worth it. We should be doing these.
All right then, I believe we are ready for action items, personnel update. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve item 16A1.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion by Bruce and a second by Michelle. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Once around the table, Cherie, would you like to go first?
Sure. Just congratulations again to the cheer team. So fun to watch their performance and what talented young ladies we've got in our school. So congratulations, Tasia. Great job with that group. You were all phenomenal. Thank you.
All right, Lacey?
I was gonna piggyback off that, Tasia and Anna. Thanks for bringing all, it's great to see kids here at our meeting and to be able to recognize them. Also, I just have to give a shout out, last week, Thursday, was the 3rd grade concert at the elementary, and I will say that kind of got goosebumps being there because it was the first time that we've had a concert at the elementary. I know there's been ones at the middle and high school, but the people there and I just feel like the support and excitement behind being able to be there in person was pretty cool. So thank you to music teacher Mrs. Winkler at the elementary and Mrs. Philippi to be able to make that happen. So, Michelle?
All right, yeah, I will mimic. Congrats to the cheer team. One of my friend's daughters is on the team and she was texting me when it was happening, so very exciting. And also, congrats to robotics for their state trip. I saw that in the weekly update. And then I did get a chance to go to the Newsies play over the weekend. And, you know, I'm like, oh, I'll wait till Sunday. And I don't know why I do this to myself, but I wait till Sunday and then they're acknowledging all the seniors and I'm getting teary-eyed for everybody again. So they did a phenomenal job. It kind of, like as I'm sitting there and people are walking up and down the bleachers, what are those called? The seats. I'm shaking and I'm like, we need an auditorium really bad. So anyway, that performance was absolutely amazing. And then also, congrats to our girls basketball team. I think this is like the 3rd or 4th year in a row that they were acknowledged for academic all-state honors. So with like over a 3.8 GPA. So 3rd in the state in Division III.
Wonderful.
So congrats to them.
The listening session will be on the 28th at 5 o'clock. We could put something in the scoop about it as well. Right now it's me, Michelle, and Lacey. Sign up to be here at 5 on the 28th. So again, if we put something so people know that's happening again, just to make sure that aware and just share it if they have issues and want to talk about anything. 3 of us will be here.
Well, that's a good point because I got a message on that too about where it's posted that there is a listening session and I don't know. So yeah,
first time we put them in the scoop, but again, just
Yeah, we'll do that again. It's just, you know, just so people know. We keep mentioning here that it's the business meeting, last meeting of the month, an hour before.
Okay.
And then, do we have any McGrath update from Dave?
And Dave talked to her last week. There's, she was involved with a move, but then there was an illness in the family, so she's working on it now, but there was just a delay there, so Dave's been in contact with her.
Does he have anything when she might be able to present to us?
I don't have a date.
Okay. And then, I can't remember, is there an insurance update? Are we supposed to talk about insurance? Is that something we need to talk with Dave about, getting a different insurance carrier, or what we're gonna do with
Well, they're updating
insurance going up again?
Updating our numbers and going out for bid.
So we're going for bid now, so was it next year we're gonna see the
Well,
increase
Jay
again?
Counter's working on that right now. There hasn't been a solid direction on it yet, though.
Okay. Do we need this direction from us?
Not yet.
No, we gotta take it back to you. I'll let you know what it is.
Is that something that's April as well?
You know, I can't say right now. I'd have to, and I can put it out in an email, but, you know, I know we've been going back and, Dave's been going back and forth with them.
Okay. Yeah, I know that was a big one again. This is at least the second time. We've only been on for a couple of years and it was 300,000, and now.
Yeah, well, every year it's an issue.
We're gonna do it again,
Every year,
so-
so, you know, it's depending on our usage and, you know, where we're at.
Right, that was it? I was glad, actually, yeah, I was just, other than the cheer, I was glad to actually have people back here to get recognized, because that was almost every meeting before, and it was nice.
And typically, we do
Positivity.
certificates, but we haven't had anybody here in 2 years. So
Yeah,
we can
kind of
approve
prove
that.
Well, she said cake and cookies or something too.
Cookies.
Oh, we
Sure.
did that too, you know, another thing is too, with student reps on the board, we gotta start looking at that again too.
Well, that was on my list, because last year, even during COVID, we still had our high school student council representatives.
I think they were doing a virtual portion here.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, because of the numbers in the room and just the restrictions that we had, we didn't bring them in.
But last year, they presented virtually, and we haven't gotten.
Yeah, and I don't have an answer for you. I don't know when I don't know when it stopped. Did we have
At
it?
the end of the year.
Did we have it at all this year at all?
No.
Okay.
And usually, typically, our new student council representatives start in September.
Yeah.
So it's normal to not have them over the summer, but typically they start at our September meeting. If you could check into that
Yeah,
for.
no, I will.
Next year at least. And, in conjunction with the, music at the elementary and the, plays at the high school. We have the Fine Arts Festival going on tonight. I'm disappointed that it's on a school board night because it's absolutely fabulous when I've been to it in the past. And before I came to the meeting tonight, I did walk around because a lot of it is already up, so I was able to see a little bit. And so I'm sure everything went splendidly tonight.
Yeah, it was up a week ago, but then we had to postpone it.
But both nights it was Monday night, school board night, so. Matt?
I have nothing.
Marge?
I just echo the congratulations and everything. It was fun to have them here, and it was fun to see them actually performing. And I'm glad we came to a decision to hire a company and which one, and so we can get started on this.
All right, then I will take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Lacey, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. The meeting is adjourned at 8:03 p.m. Thank you.